complaint of Jane Doe versus Shannon Sharpe in the 8th Judicial District Court of the State of Nevada in and for the County of Clark. Jane Doe, an individual, plaintiff versus Shannon Sharpe, an individual, defendant. Original complaint and jury demand. Introduction. A woman can say yes to consensual sexual relations with a man 99 times, but when she says no even once, that no means no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe, a man who is accustomed to getting what he wants, completely fails to understand this basic concept. After many months of manipulating and controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke and violently slap her, Sharpe refused to accept the answer no and raped plaintiff despite her sobbing and repeated screams of no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe is a 56-year-old former NFL superstar. He claims to be one of the most successful sports media personalities in the country. Plaintiff is a young woman in her early 20s. In 2023, plaintiff was working out at a gym in Los Angeles, California, when Sharpe approached her for the first time. Previously, Doe had noticed Sharpe watching her during her workouts. At this time, Doe was just 19 years old. At the time, she did not know who he was, only that he was another older man ogling her at the gym. Doe could tell Sharpe was much older than her. She found him physically intimidating. Eventually, he introduced himself. At his determined insistence, she gave him her number. Over the next couple of weeks, Sharpe incessantly pursued plaintiff. He constantly approached her at the gym and attempted to contact her frequently with phone calls and text messages, asking to meet up, unwilling to take no for an answer. Eventually, plaintiff gave in and agreed to meet with Sharpe outside of the gym. However, before doing so, Sharpe demanded that Doe sign a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, something plaintiff found a bit concerning. She wondered why Sharpe was so insistent on her signing an NDA. She refused. Despite his repeated efforts to get her to sign, she refused time and again. Eventually, he dropped the issue and invited her to his house. And what followed was the beginning of a rocky, consensual relationship that lasted nearly 2 years. The relationship was very unequal. Sharpe is more than 30 years older, considerably wealthier, physically much larger, and exponentially stronger. Sharpe is famous and has power. Plaintiff and Sharpe saw each other on his terms and on his schedule as often as 4 times a week. Over time, plaintiff began to see Sharpe's true nature. She found him to be dishonest about his whereabouts, as he would lie about seeing other women while insisting to her that she and he were exclusive. He often manipulated her, at times being sweet and loving to get what he wanted, and at other times being angry and aggressive to achieve his goals. She discovered over time that Sharpe was extremely emotional and possessed an uncontrollable temper. He displayed the characteristics of a true narcissist. He wielded his power, his influence, and his celebrity to control plaintiff and get exactly what he wanted whenever he wanted it, all the while jealously guarding what he considered his for himself. By October 2024, Sharpe's behavior had grown progressively worse, beyond anything plaintiff had experienced with him before. At this point, he was insistent upon recording their sexual activity, sometimes without her knowledge. Sharpe was also sharing the videos with others without her permission or knowledge. Sharpe would repeatedly tell Doe that he wanted to do to her things that would make no other man want her. By this point, Sharpe was no longer able to credibly maintain that the relationship was exclusive. He had at this point accidentally or purposely, to advance his career, gone live on Instagram while having sex with another woman. Sharpe flew into fits of anger when plaintiff noted his infidelity or called him out about his extraneous activities. What had once been manipulation, control, and intimidation now became something far more dangerous and sinister. Sharpe even figured out how to get into Doe's apartment complex without her permission. Sharpe made it clear that what Doe wanted was irrelevant. Sharpe would get what he wanted when he wanted it. In October 2024, Shannon Sharpe violently sexually assaulted and anally raped plaintiff 2 different times in Las Vegas, Nevada, blatantly ignoring her requests for him to stop. He did it again in January. Plaintiff left Nevada to temporarily escape defendant Shannon Sharpe, and she now seeks justice through this action and other means. Plaintiff seeks compensatory and punitive damages in this matter in excess of $50 million. Second parties. Plaintiff Jane Doe is an individual residing in Clark County, Nevada. Defendant Shannon Sharpe is an individual residing in Clark County, Nevada. He may be served at his residence at 2760 Tioga Pine Circle, Las Vegas, Nevada 89117, or wherever he may be found. Third, jurisdiction and venue. Both defendant and the plaintiff reside in Clark County, Nevada. The relief requested is within the minimum jurisdictional limits of this court. Venue is proper in Clark County because defendant resides here, and the acts, events, transactions, and omissions that form the basis of this lawsuit occurred in whole or in part in Clark County, Nevada. Fourth, factual allegations related to all claims. A, defendant Shannon Sharpe. Defendant Shannon Sharpe is a former NFL superstar and a well-known sports media personality. After a 14-season career in the NFL, he is considered by some to be one of the greatest tight ends of all time. He is a 3-time Super Bowl champion and was recently inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. Upon retirement, Sharpe transitioned into sports broadcasting, quickly achieving success in the industry. Sharpe spent several years at CBS Sports before moving to Fox, where over a decade he built a reputation for his strong opinions and hot takes. In 2023, Sharpe joined ESPN, where he remains employed today. In addition to working at ESPN's First Take, Sharpe hosts his own widely followed podcast, interviewing high-profile athletes, entertainers, and public figures. Sharpe claims he made as much as $6 million from one episode of his podcast and is alleged to be signing a multi-million-dollar deal with the Volume Media Group. Sharpe's legacy extends beyond the field and media, and in one glaring area it is not good. Sharpe has a documented history of abusing and mistreating women. As an example, he is currently a defendant in a lawsuit before the Supreme Court of New York, facing claims from a woman of intentional infliction of emotional distress, among other allegations. Many of the factual allegations in the New York case are eerily similar to his actions toward plaintiff here. According to the New York lawsuit, Sharpe forcefully subdued the plaintiff in that case, forcing her to her knees and subjecting her to non-consensual oral sex despite her repeated protests. When she resisted, he persisted. He would not take no for an answer. According to the New York lawsuit, the plaintiff feared for her safety, just as plaintiff here fears for hers. The New York lawsuit further alleges that Sharpe escalated to non-consensual vaginal penetration, all while telling her that he would make it so no other man would want her. Plaintiff in this case has heard Sharpe say those exact words to her as well. In September 2024, Sharpe live-streamed himself on accident having sex with a woman. Upon information and belief, he did so deliberately to seek media exposure and attract social media views and attention. To livestream himself, he would have had to deliberately swipe right on Instagram to activate the live feed. Sharpe claims it was accidental, but discreetly recording sex without his partner's knowledge is something he is known to do. He did so with the plaintiff herein. Plaintiff discovered that Sharpe had been secretly recording their sexual encounters without her consent. When she confronted him, he summarily dismissed her concerns, claiming the videos were for his own personal use. That too was a lie. Upon information and belief, Sharpe shared the recordings with his friends and associates. At one point, he even forced plaintiff to have sex with him while FaceTiming one of his childhood friends named Bucket. Whenever plaintiff gathered the courage to object to Sharpe's outrageous conduct, which was not often, he would aggressively and angrily put her back in her place. Shannon Sharpe isn't just a sports icon, he's something far worse. He's a flawed, narcissistic individual who has spent years using his fame, power, and influence to manipulate, control, subjugate, and violate women. With this suit, plaintiff intends to put an end to this egregious conduct. B. January 2023. The beginning of a consensual but deeply manipulative relationship. Sharpe first met plaintiff at a Los Angeles gym in early 2023. Sharpe would deliberately watch Doe in such a way to make sure she knew he was watching her. One day, as plaintiff finished a set and turned around, she found Sharpe standing inches behind her. Sharpe told her he had noticed her at the gym and wondered why she had not introduced herself. This was the first time they spoke. Plaintiff, who had just turned 20 years old, was caught off guard and face to face with a 54-year-old man she had never met. Plaintiff did not know at the time who Shannon Sharpe was. She did not know what to say nor how to feel about his advances. During their first conversation, Sharpe proposed a challenge, a competition to see who could lean out faster. The prize, if plaintiff won, he would buy her fake tits. Plaintiff was stunned. The implication that she needed or wanted such a thing was wildly inappropriate, and hearing it from a stranger more than 30 years her senior made it even more disturbing. Throughout their subsequent encounters at the gym, Sharpe made sure plaintiff understood who he was, a celebrity and TV personality. Over the following weeks, Sharpe made himself unavoidable. He was at the gym when she was. He constantly called and texted, demanding she come to his Beverly Glen mansion. Plaintiff repeatedly declined and made up excuses to seem too busy to see him, but he would not stop. Sharpe would not be deterred. Eventually, plaintiff gave in, but before she could meet him outside of the gym, Sharpe made another demand, as she had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. He refused to explain why and would not let her see a copy of the proposed agreement. He simply insisted she sign one. Plaintiff refused. After multiple attempts, when he realized she would not cooperate, he finally dropped the issue. C revealed from the start the violent, aggressive, and controlling nature of Shannon Sharpe. The first night plaintiff went to Sharpe's house, the experience was unlike anything she had dealt with before, disturbing, unsettling, and given his subsequent conduct, very illuminating. When plaintiff arrived at his house, Sharpe opened the door to his Beverly Glen mansion without a word. No greeting, no acknowledgement, no small talk. Without so much as looking at plaintiff, he simply turned away after opening the door and walked upstairs. Plaintiff hesitated but followed, not knowing what else to do. When they reached the bedroom, Sharpe pointed to the bed before disappearing into the bathroom and shutting the door behind him. He still had not said a word. Plaintiff sat on the bed, waiting, unsure whether she should leave. Roughly 5 minutes later, he emerged, but still, he said nothing. Instead, he turned off all the lights and lay down on his bed. Plaintiff, uncomfortable and unsure of what to do, lay down as well. For roughly 10 minutes, there was nothing but silence. Then, without warning, Sharpe placed his hands on plaintiff's neck from behind, pressed his erect penis against her body, and said his first words of the night, "I knew from the first time I saw you that I was going to fuck you." Doe and Sharpe then engaged in oral sex. As they did so, plaintiff realized Sharpe was using his phone. He was apparently recording her. She said nothing, too scared to confront him for fear of what he might do or say. When it ended, he rolled over and went to sleep. Later that night, Sharpe woke up, grabbed plaintiff by her vagina, and began having sex with her. The next morning, Sharpe woke around 4 a.m. to shoot a media segment for sports television. He woke plaintiff as well and told her she needed to leave, but ordered that she must return by 9 p.m. exactly. The following night, plaintiff arrived at Sharpe's house at approximately 9:05 p.m., just 5 minutes late. The moment he opened the door, plaintiff experienced his rage for the first time. Sharpe immediately launched into a verbal assault. He screamed at plaintiff, berating her for what felt like hours. He accused her of disrespecting him, wasting his time, and warned her, if you want to be with the Shannon Sharpe, you have to learn obedience. Plaintiff was terrified and feared for her physical safety. Still enraged, Sharpe turned off the lights, grabbed her neck, and just like the night before, began having sexual intercourse with her. This cycle of control, fear, and submission became routine. Yelling at her, controlling her, forcibly grabbing her by the neck when upset, threatening to kill her, and asserting dominance all became normal. Over the next year and a half, plaintiff saw Sharpe at his house as often as 4 times a week. Sharpe continued to treat her like an object while controlling her physically, emotionally, and psychologically. He demanded complete control over her time and body, expecting her to be at his house at his command whenever he called. The verbal abuse never stopped. One time specifically, while yelling at her, there was a firearm visible in the room. Terrified for her safety, plaintiff tried sharing her location with friends via her iPhone, just in case. But Sharpe caught her. The moment he realized what she was doing, he grabbed her by the neck and said, if you ever do that again, I will fucking kill you. The summer 2024, Sharpe's control turns abusive. The relationship becomes fearful and non-consensual. Sharpe's aggression and rage continued to escalate. Plaintiff's friends began to fear for her safety. When plaintiff was with her friends, they could hear Sharpe yelling at her over the phone and would ask if she was safe. In the summer of 2024, plaintiff and Sharpe each moved to Las Vegas for different reasons. Sharpe liked to say that plaintiff followed him to Vegas, but that was a lie. Once there, Sharpe again insisted that plaintiff sign an NDA. She refused. He persisted. After enough resistance, he finally dropped the issue but continued seeing her multiple times a week. His behavior did not change. He remained erratic, controlling, and verbally abusive, all while telling plaintiff they were in an exclusive relationship. And then in September 2024, Sharpe humiliated plaintiff. He live streamed himself having sex with another woman on Instagram for over 1.1 million followers to see. He later joked about the incident on his podcast, Club Shay Shay and Show Nightcap. For plaintiff, it was anything but funny. Sharpe had repeatedly assured her they were exclusive. This betrayal not only hurt her emotionally and made her fear for her sexual health. At that point, plaintiff began to pull away from Sharpe. She stopped answering his calls and stopped telling him where she was. Plaintiff's attempts at independence further upset Sharpe. He began flooding her phone with calls demanding to know her whereabouts. The harassment became unbearable. The plaintiff frequently left Nevada, trying to cut off communication and reclaim control of her life. She remained terrified, even from thousands of miles away. Sharpe refused to accept her independence. October 6, 2024, Sharpe sexually assaults and rapes plaintiff and threatens, "I'm going to make it so no man will want you again." On October 6, 2024, plaintiff was working out at a Nevada gym following her usual routine. As she worked out, she saw Sharpe aggressively approaching her. She could tell by his look and the way he moved quickly toward her that he was furious at being ignored. As soon as he got close, he said, "Sit the fuck down or I'm going to kill you." Plaintiff refused, saying, "I don't want to talk to you. You cheated on me." Sharpe's response was dismissive and controlling as usual. "You don't have a choice." Sharpe demanded that they talk in private. Again, plaintiff told him no. She made it clear she did not want to talk to him, be alone with him, or have him come to her home, but Sharpe didn't care. He never took no for an answer. Under threat, Sharpe forced plaintiff to get into his car and go to her apartment. Once inside, plaintiff tried to keep the conversation in the living room, but Sharpe refused. He demanded they go to the bedroom. She said no. He didn't listen. Inside the bedroom, Sharpe grabbed her from behind and forcibly positioned her to perform oral sex. He held her in place and forced her to begin. He became angrier and said, "You've disrespected me so much, I'm gonna punish this asshole. I'm gonna make it so no man will want you again." At this point, Plaintiff was crying and sobbing. Tears streamed down her face. Sharpe repositioned her and without her consent inserted his penis into her anus. As he forcibly anally raped her, he said, "Turn around and look at me." Sharpe grabbed her head, forcing her to look at him as she sobbed. He said, "Look at this. Look at my arm. I've got chills. That's how good this is." Shannon Sharpe forced himself on the plaintiff and raped her, despite her sobbing in agony. He told her that the experience was so good it was giving him chills. Sharpe's behavior demonstrated that he believed plaintiff was his property, possessed and owned by him. He also believed that the laws did not apply to him, that he could take what he wanted, and that no one would stop him. He was and is wrong. February 2nd, 2025, Sharpe sexually assaults and rapes plaintiff again, ignoring her screams and refusing to wear a condom. On January 2nd, 2025, Sharpe told plaintiff he wanted to see her. He reminded her that he had a combined Christmas and birthday gift to give her. Ultimately, she allowed him to come over to her apartment. She regrets that decision. Once inside, Sharpe began undressing. Plaintiff firmly stated multiple times that they would not have sex without protection, demanding he wear a condom. She knew that in the past he had refused to use condoms. She believed her demand would stop him, but Sharpe had other ideas. She tried to resist him. She screamed. She had already expressed concerns for her safety, knowing he had been involved with other women, increasing the risk of sexually transmitted diseases. The more she begged, the more aggressive Sharpe became. He made it clear he would not wear a condom and he was going to have his way. Sharpe grabbed her, repositioned her, and forced her to perform oral sex, which lasted roughly 2 minutes, and then he repositioned her again and forcibly penetrated her. Plaintiff never stopped demanding that he stop or put on protection. Sharpe ignored her. As soon as he penetrated her, plaintiff screamed and sobbed. Her cries for help did nothing to stop him. The assault lasted roughly 10 minutes, ending only when Sharpe ejaculated inside her. Plaintiff cried and begged repeatedly for him to stop. After the assault, plaintiff left Nevada. She brings these causes of action before this honorable court to recover damages and to prevent Shannon Sharpe and others like him from engaging in further acts of sexual assault and harm to future victims. Fifth first claim for relief. A. Assault, sexual assault, battery, and sexual battery. Plaintiff hereby incorporates each of the foregoing paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. As alleged, defendant Sharpe willfully and unlawfully used threats and physical force against plaintiff. In using willful and unlawful force, defendant intended to cause harmful and offensive contact. The threats were intended to control plaintiff. The harmful and offensive contact intended by defendant Sharpe in fact occurred. The threats, as well as the harmful and offensive contact by defendant Sharpe, caused plaintiff to suffer harm. Sharpe's conduct proximately caused injury to plaintiff. Plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain pain and suffering, psychological and emotional distress, mental anguish, embarrassment, and humiliation. Accordingly, plaintiff is entitled to recover damages against defendant for the harm caused by his conduct in an amount to be determined at trial. 6th, claim for relief. B. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiff realleges each aforementioned allegation as if fully incorporated herein. Sharpe engaged in conduct that is extreme and outrageous, exceeding the bounds of decency in a civilized society. Namely, he caused plaintiff to experience profound mental suffering by causing her to fear for her safety and well-being. Time and time again, he reinforced that fear with threats and violence. Sharpe engaged in this conduct intentionally, knowingly, and willfully. Sharpe's conduct proximately caused injury to plaintiff. Plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain pain and suffering, psychological and emotional distress, mental anguish, embarrassment, and humiliation. Accordingly, plaintiff is entitled to recovery against defendant for the damages caused by his conduct. Thus, in addition to actual damages, plaintiff seeks punitive damages, and such damages are not subject to any legal cap. Seventh, demand for jury trial. Plaintiff hereby demands a trial by jury and tenders all appropriate fees with this complaint. Eighth, prayer for relief. Wherefore plaintiff, reserving the right to amend this complaint prior to or during trial, respectfully prays for judgment against defendant as follows: general damages in excess of $10 million, special damages in excess of $10 million, punitive damages in excess of $20 million, the statutory penalties in excess of $10 million, a declaration of rights as set forth above, attorney's fees and costs of litigation, interest at the statutory rate, such other and further relief as the court deems reasonable under the circumstances. Respectfully submitted, Delahunty and Edelman, LLP, and the Busby Law Firm. Attorneys for plaintiff Jane Doe, dated April 20th of 2025. Respectfully submitted, Delahunty and Edelman Limited Liability Partnership by Micah D. Nash, Nevada Bar number 16596, email mnash@delawlp.com. for Embarcadero Center, Suite 1400, San Francisco, California, 94111, telephone 415-891-6210, facsimile 415-891-6256, Anthony G. Busby, Pro Hack Vice forthcoming, Texas Bar number 24001820, email tbusby@taxattorneys.com, Thomas Colby Holler, Pro Hack Vice forthcoming, Texas Bar number 24126-898.